Nawala yata
Hi.
si Ay, ito. Kala ko nawala ka. Anyway, so
Wala.
let us reveal ourselves. We shall reveal ourselves. Okay, so I am with Jia Dee, um, another champion. Teka, we're gonna start. I'll just do my spiel before we start formally. Okay, so
Let's go.
this podcast is brought to you by at hello.mucha. That's Mucha Lux Cakes. You can see the video right above us. So we have cookies, donuts, and other goodies. Check out at hello.mucha on Instagram and Facebook. That's MIUCCIA dot that's at HELO dot MIUCCIA. Hello.mucha. And also, this podcast is streaming live both on YouTube and Facebook, and will be uploaded to Spotify and Apple Podcasts and other podcast platforms. So if you're just listening, there's an option to view the show on Facebook and YouTube. Okay, so Yun. And during the lockdown era, we dedicate the all of our episodes to the frontliners and everybody that's keeping our lives going and our society. And yun, our thoughts are with you, and hopefully we get out of this real soon, as soon as possible. Okay, so that's it. Let's start, Gia. You ready?
Yeah.
All
Aha.
right.
Kanina
Okay.
pa.
Oo nga, eh,
Go.
no? Woo! Teka. Welcome to the Powerful Comics Man podcast. Yes, we are with Miss Gia D, the esports athlete. How do I introduce you? We are with another champion. Our last episode, I was with an MMA champion, and now we have an esports champion. And you also represented our country in last Sea Games, right?
Yes, that's correct. Ano nga ba yung job title ko? Kahit pro Hearthstone player and caster na lang.
Yun, okay, okay, okay. So we're gonna actually I don't know I don't know anything about Hearthstone other than what I see on the streams and on the images and the cards, 'di ba? So we can talk about that later. So how are you? But first let me ask you, how are you? How are you holding up in this lockdown?
Doing well, thank you. So, my work is completely done remotely. So, dito lang sa bahay. And from the beginning naman, I wasn't really into going out that much. I like to stay home and play games. So, I'm part of the privileged community na hindi masyadong affected.
Oo nga eh, no? So, pero you mentioned earlier while we were setting up, parang you were supposed to be in a competition right now or a gig abroad and then
Uh,
this happened.
yes. So, right now, I'm working on Hearthstone Grandmasters as one of the casters. So, That's the highest level of Hearthstone na may mga commentators, two per region. So I'm commentating the Asia Pacific region na originally dapat sa US kami mag-work. As in, 4 months dapat ako dun. But because of the pandemic, pinadala na lang ng Blizzard yung mga setup ko ngayon. Kaya maganda yung headset ko and everything right now. This is what I use for work also.
Wow. I see. So, you see, ano ba yung tanong ko? So, you're not competing in this tournament? Is it a tournament?
No, I'm commentating. That's actually my main job in esports. I started as a commentator since 2016. And then 2019 lang ako nag-compete more than usual with SEA Games and some invitational tournaments. But right now, I'm back to casting full time.
How paano yun? Maybe I should watch. So pero I see you pero you also compete, right? Kasi 'di ba? How did that journey start? From I'm presuming from a casual gamer, and then here you are
Mhm.
becoming a champion of I saw a video of you parang you were in this esports arena and parang super ganda nung nung production. So how did that start?
I Um, well, I would join yung mga local tournaments. It's called Fireside Gathering pag Hearthstone na kahit sino pwede mag-organize as long as they apply dun sa website ng Blizzard. And then, yeah, you can hold a tournament, invite the local community, and I would join those weekly while I was still studying in
Mhm.
college. And then, after a while, tinry ko na rin mag-cast ng mga local event. Tapos, got recommended to cast a Blizzard official event in Malaysia. Tapos from there, tuloy-tuloy na. It was mostly a hobby while I was still studying, but after ako mag-graduate, naging full-time na on the commentating. And then with the competing side, nagkataon lang that I was invited to an all-women tournament
Mhm.
by a company called eStars and eStar Studios. They organized a tournament called WSOE na sinalihan ko and I ended up winning. So yun ata yung nakita mo na sobrang ganda ng setup and production because bongga talaga sila. And so because of that, I was also invited to the training pool for SEA Games and then nag-qualify ako from the training pool to the final roster. But that was just 2019 mostly. Right now, I'm back to commentating.
Talaga? Ah, kasi I was under the impression how do they pick the players? Kasi if you I only play right now I play Call of Duty Mobile. And you see the rankings, the international rankings, 'di ba? Parang basta yung rankings doon. And then I was wondering maybe the organizers pick from the top players from the rankings and then invite them to compete. Diba? Parang was that the same with was is that the case or something else happens?
Sa SEA Games, there were open qualifiers. So, parang nagpa-tournament lang, sign up. Like, if you do well here, you can be part of the training pool for SEA Games. So, some people qualified that way. And then, may mga invitees din based on prior performance. Kasi, sa Philippines, I would say, kilala naman lahat ng mga nag-excel abroad in esports. Because there aren't that many pro gamers sa Philippines compared to other countries. So,
Mm.
isa ako dun sa mga pre-invites to the training pool. And then, pinagsama kami along with the qualifiers from the open tournaments. Tapos, nag-compete din kaming apat. And from there, the final two were chosen. And then, it's a similar process for all the other esports, pero mas malaki lang yung pool kasi mga team games yun, whereas Hearthstone is just an individual game.
Okay. So, yung Hearthstone what kind of gameplay is it? Parang doon sa nakita ko parang cards siya eh. Hindi ko alam eh.
Parang card, it's a card game.
Parang Magic.
Are you
Is
familiar
that similar?
like
Is it similar to Magic?
similar? Um, it's similar in the fact that you have creatures, you have spells, you have a health total, you have mana.
Okay.
So ayun, ganun din yung effect niya. Siyempre may mga nuances na iba, different mechanics, but the concept that you need to manage your resources to be the first to deplete your opponent's health total. That's
Oh,
the game. And by the way, this is not Hearthstone that we're showing here.
I
This is Legends of Runeterra, which I recently also.
see. I don't even know. Okay. So, do you have any videos?
Malapit na compare to
Oops, oops,
Hearthstone.
oops,
So
oops. I was looking for your ano for your videos in from the WSOE. How do you pronounce that? How do they pronounce the WSOE lang?
WSOE. Yun na.
Not Wuzo.
Yeah.
Okay. So when did you start playing Hearthstone? And why Hearthstone in particular?
I started in 2014 after graduating high school. Kasi kami yung batch na 6 months yung summer. So, sobrang wala akong magawa noon. And then my friend just said, Oy, Gia, may bagong release na card game ng Blizzard. You should download it and try. Kasi that friend knew that I kind of like Yu-Gi-Oh! Before. Hindi naman ako competitive sa Yu-Gi-Oh! But I would, play the single player games yung sa Nintendo DS, ganun
Mm-hmm.
ganun. And then tried Hearthstone just on a whim, and then I ended up being really good at it, sure. And I also really enjoyed. So, yun.
How did
I would be on and off as a casual player until 2015, but when I started competing, wala na. It was all downhill or uphill, however you want to look at it from there.
really? But how did you know that you were good enough to compete?
May ranking system din kasi within the game itself. Even if you're not playing against anyone physically, you can climb the ladder just like with any other multiplayer game. Like Dota may MMR, 'di ba? So
Mm-hmm.
Hearthstone may ranking system. And then the more you win, the higher you climb in the ranks. And then I hit the legend rank um after a year of playing or something. And then actually it doesn't really take a year. It was just that um di talaga ako nag-effort until later on when I noticed that I had friends who are already legend. Anyway, nung nag-legend na ako, sabi ko, I must be pretty good because legend rank is like less than the top 1% of players in Hearthstone.
Okay. Okay. Hmm. Eto Hearthstone na to, sigurado na ako.
Yeah.
When did you so after you turned legend, you started applying or you started joining competitions?
Small ones, yeah. Yung mga fireside gathering nga dito lang. So you can go online and search Blizzard's website, fireside gatherings, and see kung may
Oh.
event na in your area. So sinearch ko yun, tapos biglang meron palang board game cafe na every Sunday may tournament. Well, at the time, that was 2016. So sinasalihan ko yun.
Where was
And
this?
I met a lot of I still have until today. It was in Xavierville. So malapit
Oh.
lang sa U. And then ayun, yeah,
Okay.
grassroots.
So you really so it's just a bunch of Hearthstone fans, parang Hearthstone community. It's just within the community.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. And then from there they pick the champions na para ito yung mga malupit. Parang ganun ba yun? Was that ganun ba yung
wala
eksena?
namang pinipick out. It's just like kung may mga mananalo, they win the prize for that tournament. So, kunyari, yung owner may papremyo siyang 1,000 or mga merch from Blizzard or kahit free drinks for joining kasi board game cafe naman yun. And then it
Okay.
was really just for fun and for community building. But it was later on that there would be bigger tournaments and then chances to cast.
Okay. But and then for shoutcasting basically is commentating the game. Is
Yes,
that
for
correct? So how did you get that
mhm.
gig?
Um, yung owner kasi ng board game cafe, after a few months, naisip niya magpa-tournament in a bigger scale. So, we moved to SM North, gano'n. And then gusto niya na may
Oh.
stream and every if it would get traction. So, he asked kung sinong gusto mag-cast and I volunteered. And then from there, may nakilala ako na taga Mineski at the time na in-invite naman ako mag-cast for their tournament, which was more upscale. that was probably close to top level in the Philippines already at the time. So
Mm-hmm.
kinast ko yun, and from there may nakilala ako na taga ESL Southeast Asia. Tapos siya naman, in-invite niya ako mag-cast on Malaysia Major, which is already a Blizzard event. And then, yeah, it was really, really lucky. It happened really quickly for me. But they liked my work, so they kept inviting me back, and I'm really grateful for that.
Oh. Okay, some people are commenting. Mark Matibag, Rafael Aragon, Kevin Gonzalez. Kilala mo ba sila?
Hello.
And okay. And nagpapa-shoutout sila sa kay Miko. Kevin Gonzalez says, shoutout po sa co-viewers ko si Miko Cuartero, Ryan Nang at Matthew Lim. Support daw. Pasabi ni Boss Michael Lim.
Thank
More power. Do you know these guys? Or parang the
you.
usual suspects lang from your page? Well, not lang. Okay.
Kilala ko. Is this Bam Aquino? Bam Aquino?
No,
As
no, no.
in,
Yeah, the senator. Well, he's my buddy. He's my buddy. But yeah, he always gets that when he comments here.
yeah, well, shout out sa lahat ng nanonood. Thank you guys for joining during the quarantine.
So how did well, basically parang you were saying parang hindi ka the quarantine did not affect you that much. Well, almost same as me. It's that I miss going out, parang jogging outside or parang riding the motorcycle, 'di ba? Parang ganun. So mga ganun-ganun lang. Pero for the most part, when we're working and with just regular days, are you must be you said you're kind of the same then.
Yeah, it's really the same. Actually,
Mm.
with my job, I'm only super duper busy pag on season ng Hearthstone, which is maybe 4 months in a year. Then pag off season, wala akong ginagawa unless may event. So nagkataon lang na ngayon na yung on season, so I'm pretty busy. But after that, it'll just be back to normal.
Talaga. How big is the is the WSOE the largest um what do you call that?
No,
Org?
not at all.
Not at all.
Definitely.
Ah, I
They
see.
are they're a third party organizer kasi, which means that kunyari yung mga premier leagues of each esport is organized by the publisher or developer of the game itself. So for Hearthstone's case, that would be Blizzard. Sila yung nag-organize.
Mm.
And then uh, TI is sponsored by Valve, etc. And Riot sponsors LCS, and so on and so forth. But there are also third-party organizers, yung mga company na parang binibili nila yung rights or they make an agreement with the developer or the publisher to
Okay.
hold a tournament using their game. And then sila na bahala mag-advertise and kumuha ng sponsors and everything. So WSOE, they had a series of tournaments across many different titles. So meron silang WSOE na pang Dota, meron na pang
Oh, okay.
FGC. For the Hearthstone event, they decided to have it be an all-women invitational. So doon ako sumali. But the highest level of Hearthstone is Hearthstone Grandmasters, which I'm not competing in, but I'm commentating in. Sorry kung
Ah,
medyo
okay.
magulo.
I see. So basically you're commentating at the highest tawag dito, parang kumbaga sa Premier League, you're commentating in the Premier League.
Yes.
Pero you're competing on I don't know how to describe it, on other organizations like
Parang
WSOE.
invitational.
Ah, do you plan to
Yes.
take on the giants of Hearthstone sa Premier League? Who's the biggest star pala?
In Hearthstone. Right, yung most recent global champion is VK Lion from China. Babae siya. That made very big headlines because she was one of the first, if not the first woman to win the highest title in any esports, I
Talaga?
think. And
Mm.
then previous champion is Hunter Ace from Norway. And then may mga malalaking streamers din. But with Hearthstone, the overlap between the streaming community and the competitive community is not that big. May mga streamers na sobrang laki ng following nila but they're not actually competing at the highest level. Kunyari, si Kriparian, that's a good example. But there are also streamers that are competitors like Tice. So you could ask me the biggest star na streamer, I will say
Mm-hmm.
that's Kriparian. But if
Prepare.
you ask
Okay.
me who's the biggest star na competitor, it's either VK Lion or Hunter Ace right now.
Okay. Hmm. Kasi when uh I just hear it in the news sometimes. Parang when these grand tournaments happen, yung mga yung prizes nila parang it's really parang sobrang laki, 'di ba? Ng mga pot money and they make a lot of money. Is that the same case with the
Yes.
Hearthstone? What was the biggest what is the biggest grand prize um
Uh, the most
win?
recent highest price was $200,000 for an individual person, which is very big, obviously, but
Yeah.
it's not Fortnite big. Gonna
Yeah.
compare.
Oo nga eh, no?
Kasi, syempre, mas malaki yung prize pool, but you can argue, okay, that's a team game. But for an individual, the highest payout of any esport right now is Fortnite, and Hearthstone's a small fraction of that only. But it's still pretty big.
Yeah, that's still 8 million pesos, right? 200,000, somewhere around that, more or less, 'di ba? And tawag dito. Huh. It's amazing, no? Parang from how old are the competitors in Hearthstone and in Fortnite?
uh,
Basically, an average the average age of esport athletes.
Karamihan nasa early to mid 20s, I would say. But there are
Woo!
also some very high level players in their teens, like 18, 19. Sila Hunter is, I think, is
Talaga.
like 18 or 19. But I think the majority are around my age, 24.
Whoa. Grabe, no? Can you imagine back then? Kasi, ako, um, I'm a, I'm one of the older millennials. 81 ako pinanganak eh. So, back then, there's already gaming, but there's no esports yet. 'Di ba? Parang wala namang, I, at least sa pagkakaalam ko, wala namang Super Mario Grand Prix. I
Well,
don't know. I don't know if there's one, ha? Pero I don't think so. 'Di ba? Well, I don't think you can, ano yung pabilisan lang kayo matapos. Kasi you can't really compete. 'Di ba? So, pero right now,
speed run. But
yeah.
yeah, iba pa siya sa yeah.
I'm sorry. Ay, nawala yung audio. Anyway, so, pero would you know when esports started officially, parang ganun, the parang
Uh,
kailan na
this
uso to
is
is
arguable.
mhm.
This is a debate within the community actually. Kasi I think early 90s pa lang meron ng mga arcade scene. Kunyari sa mga
Oh,
first Mortal Kombat,
yes.
Street Fighter. There were
Mm.
people already meeting in their arcades, and then say the guy from the West Coast who's the best player would go meet with the guy from the East Coast, and we'll see who's the best. You can make the argument that esports started then,
Yeah.
but I think formal esports started
Mhm.
with StarCraft, which I also don't know what year that was released, but late 90s siguro.
Late 90s na ba 'yun? Ah, okay. Oo nga,
I'm
no?
not sure. I don't play StarCraft. I'm googling it as we. Yeah, 1998 StarCraft, the
Oh,
first title.
grabe, no? And then
And
now, well, the thing is, the games themselves, kumbaga, it's night and day na yung difference from the games in the from the 90s, 'di ba? So from Super Mario,
oh yeah,
we have Witcher, mga ganyan, and well, you know the mga mind blowing games that we have right now, and well, but Hearthstone, it's relatively relatively parang simple yung ah, I wouldn't say simple kasi ang gagaling ng mga artist na kinuha nila, 'di ba? Pero
Yeah.
hmm. What's your favorite card? Do you have a favorite card? Or okay, okay.
Kasi may favorite ako nung 2016 na ni-nerf nung 2018. And ever since then, I didn't have a better answer. But it's called Flame Tongue Totem. It's not a really nice design or anything. It was just really powerful when I played it. Right now, in standard, maybe it's... gosh, but wala akong sagot. I really like Zephyrus. Zephyrus, that is a really cool design. It's unique among all the other cards kasi meron siyang special AI involved in the coding.
mm. Oh, hindi ako masyadong makarelate kasi hindi ko alam kung paano laruin eh.
Mm.
Magpapaturo ba ako sa iyo ngayon? I saw a video of you para explaining how Hearthstone goes, how to play
Ay,
Hearthstone in
featuring,
your
yeah.
y-
You
yeah.
can watch that. Or marami ng tutorial. Or better yet, you can download it for free. Tas the first
Mm-hmm.
thing you'll do is a tutorial. So,
Mm-hmm. Ha,
pero explain ko na lang yung card na pinili ko, yung si Zephyrus.
mm-hmm.
Imagine if you're playing an RPG,
Mm-hmm.
let's say, um, and then merong meron kang wall that you need to scale in order to get to the next level. Zephyrus will give you a ladder. Let's say meron kang
Oh.
kalaban na
Okay.
giant. Kailangan mo ng special magic potion to destroy it.
Okay.
Zephyrus will give you the potion. Basta it's like it will give you whatever you need. And then in a card game, it's very complicated to
Mm-hmm.
determine what is the best thing you need. So it's a very unprecedented card in that respect.
Oh. Is it one of the cards na when I'm assuming parang you draw, parang if you get it, oh, parang okay, parang boost your confidence na parang uh,
For sure.
parang patay kayo.
Boost your win rate.
Is it
Yeah.
how many cards do you get? Kasi 'di ba, I don't play Magic 2 kaya medyo nahihirapan ako magtanong about Hearthstone eh. At least kahit yung that's probably the closest thing that I can compare it to based on what I see. Baka nga yung mga Hearthstone players parang ano eh nagagalit na sa akin ngayon sa gagot. Hindi ko naman alam sinasabi ko. So, anyway, um do you get a specific number of cards initially? Kasi I'd imagine there are thousands of cards.
Yes.
The, pero parang you get a deck.
Oh, you mean as in when you download the game?
Mm-hmm.
I thought you meant when you start a game of Hearthstone. Um, when you first download Hearthstone, you can have access to the basic set by playing against the computer. So
Okay.
I can't recall how many cards that is. Probably a couple hundred in total. And then you can earn gold, which is the in-game currency, to buy packs, which boost your card collection. And then for new players, they also recently implemented a program which gives you a free deck. You can choose a free deck na pang meta talaga, not just throwaway
Mm-hmm.
cards. So yeah, I think I don't know the exact number of cards you get when you start the game, but it's enough to be able to build a deck for sure.
Okay, pero on each game, how many cards are there in the deck? And you choose it individually. Are
30.
how
It's the
how
rule of Hearthstone is 30, no more, no less. So it's different from Yu-Gi-Oh in that regard. As in, hindi ka pwedeng pumasok ng game unless your deck is 30 cards.
okay. And how do you choose your cards?
Like, how do you build a deck?
No, no, no.
Or
Parang what ano yung what are your parang how do you call this? Uh, how do you not manage it? Parang how do you choose the cards? Parang strategically na pagpili mo that this is what I need. These are the cards that I need. This is a strong deck. I don't know if I'm making any sense. Sorry, ah.
Very hard to discuss without having the actual game in front of you. Kasi yung mga
Oo
tinatanong
nga
mo,
eh.
mga abstract or
I
kailangan may
see.
prior knowledge about the game. But
Kaya nga, sorry,
if
sorry. Maybe I should have,
but
maybe I should have
asking like how
researched
to
Hearthstone first.
know what's a strong card. Like may mga online database naman where people share their decks and you can see the win rate of decks on ladder. So if you're just entering the game for the first time, you don't know what's a strong deck, you can go to those websites like HS Replay or HS Top Decks and then copy mo na lang yung mga malalakas.
I
Other
see.
people like to build it from scratch and I respect those people. But it's much easier to just watch what the pros are playing and then use that.
Uh, so basically, is this correct? Do you manually build your deck like in Magic, 'di ba? Kasi ganun yung sa Magic, 'di ba? Parang you buy the cards and then bala ka parang you take which one to build a deck na
Yes.
panglaban, 'di ba? So, is that the same with Hearthstone?
Yes.
Uh,
You bring I mean, you build a or wait lang, try ko sagutin yung mga tanong sa chat.
oh, sige, sige.
So, thought process on which cards are good or not. If I can
Yan.
get more technical on well, let's say it's a minion, the first thing you wanna evaluate is okay ba yung stats for the cost because every card will have a cost in mana that you need to spend in order to play it. And then the rule of thumb is like for one mana, good stats is one attack, three health, mga ganun, or total three or four. And then as you rise in mana, you add two stats. So good stats for a two mana card is two, three, or five total. Ganun. It's so hard to explain without graphics. But um, if you're already playing a deck on ladder a lot, the way I remove cards is if I feel like lagi ko tong nabubunot pero hindi naman malakas or it's not doing what I needed and need something to do in this situation. And then yun yung mga tatanggalin ko when I'm refining a deck. And
Okay.
then, mga ganun. And then, meron din bang deck types like Graveyard, Winnie? I don't know a graveyard deck type, but the concept of a graveyard like in Yu-Gi-Oh is a different pile of cards na pag may namatay kang minion, mapupunta dun. In Hearthstone, there's nothing like that. Or
Hmm.
it's not on board, but there's like cards that can resurrect from a pool of minions that have died.
Yun. Guys, help me out with the Hearthstone questions, okay? Okay. Uh, okay. So, do you how many cards do you have? I'd imagine you have a lot.
Count. I have enough. I don't think anybody counts how many cards they have. Like uh, probably several thousand.
Okay. Well, that's good enough. That's 'di ba? So,
Basta, meron naman akong collection which is big enough to build all the meta decks. That's all you need to be a pro player anyway.
paano 'yun? As for pro players, 'di ba? Parang to those who are competing, let's say dito na sa Grandmasters, do they get access to all of the cards? Or parang they I'd imagine it's an in-game purchase yung mga to acquire decks, the cards, 'di ba? So
So
how
for
how do you
certain tournaments, Blizzard can give a super account or parang special account siya na pag nilog on mo, nandun na lahat complete, the whole collection, everything you could possibly need. So they use that for the high level tournaments. But
Whoa.
for open tournaments, you need to sign up and use your own collection most of the time.
Talaga? Paano kung may disadvantage ka? So basically, yung mga pro talaga, they have lahat talaga all in they have access to everything.
Pag pag high level tournament na organized ng
Mm.
Blizzard, bibigyan ka
Mm.
ng access. But you actually like I would say 99% of pro players don't really need a super account because they already have the cards needed to get to that level.
I
Parang
see.
isipin mo na para maging pro, kailangan mong umabot ng legend consistently. And para umabot ng legend consistently, most of the time, kailangan mo ng meta cards or most
Mhm.
of the meta cards.
Are
And then in order to even qualify for a big tournament, you need to have several decks already prepared.
are there other cards that you still want to acquire right now
I have everything I need.
or
Or kung
okay.
meron akong kulang, iko-craft ko na lang. It's
How
because I've been playing the game for years. I
yeah.
have enough of the in-game currency.
How often do they come up with new cards? I naisip ko
Ah, yeah.
they could be
Expansions drop 3 times a year, so every 4 months.
every 4 months. Okay. And do parang how do they change the game? Kasi I'd imagine parang they of course they're doing that to keep the game interesting. Parang does every update or new releases um parang drastic ba yung nagiging epekto sa game or parang okay naman?
Yes. Well, ideally, they want the change to be drastic. Are you familiar with the concept of a meta game or meta? Have you heard the term before?
Yes, but not really. Not I don't know how to apply it with cards.
What games do you play? I'll try to make a metaphor na lang.
I play first person shooters. Um I so what do you call this? Well,
Mhm.
yung Call of Duty Mobile and I played a lot of
Okay.
what's this called? Blizzard din yung first person nila. Overwatch, yun.
Overwatch.
Overwatch.
Yun. Okay. So, I don't actually play those games. Pero kunyari, di ba, when you play an FPS, di ba may mga weapon na mas malakas compared to the other weapons na lahat
Mhm.
ng players hinahabol nila yung weapon na yun.
Yes,
Or
yes, of
in
course.
Overwatch, may mga heroes na mas madaling laruin or mas malakas.
Mm-mm.
So, more people end up using those weapons or using those characters compared to the other options. And
Okay.
that trend is called a meta. It's like
Oh.
when people have settled on the idea that there are superior strategies than others, that's the meta. Now, in a card game, that translates to, well, this deck is just really good compared to a tier 5 deck. Like, let's say right now, Warrior is tier 1 and Shaman is tier 5. That's our meta right now. And every time that they release new cards, the goal is to shake up the meta. Because ayon, mabobore naman yung mga
Yeah.
tao kung laging Warrior na lalaro or Demon Hunter and then never nang playable yung Shaman. So, with every expansion, they try to shake up the meta, and every year there's a set of cards that are not playable in standard anymore. They move it to wild. So parang wild is anything goes, and all of the cards ever released in Hearthstone are playable there. But in standard, which is the highest level of, or it's the format of the highest level of competition, it's only cards from the past 2 years that are available.
Oh, okay. So some of the cards are obsolete. Is that correct? Kumbaga parang inaccessible na siya. Pero if you bought it,
Pwede mong gamitin on the standard format.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Let's
And
talk about
if you
okay.
have a card that you don't want to use anymore, you can disenchant it. Eh, may sinabi ako about crafting, right? So parang meron kang extra cards or hindi malakas, you can convert it to dust na pwede mong gamitin to craft cards that you actually want. So that's the
Oh,
how the game economy works.
okay. Um punta na lang tayo sa ano kasi I don't know much about siguro nakakabwisit yung mga tanong ko sa about Hearthstone. Pero let's go to ano, let's go to your SEA Games experience naman. How did that happen? How did you get into, first of all, parang I think this is the first SEA Games na merong, or at least dito sa Pilipinas, na may esports. Is
Yeah,
that correct?
that's the first one. Yes,
Yeah.
first one ever. And I was invited yun nga because of my tournament performances into the training pool for Hearthstone.
Mm.
Kasi syempre yung mga organizers ng SEA Games, kilala na nila yung mga magagaling in their respective esports titles. It's not
Mm.
like they're gonna take a shot in the dark.
Mm.
Yeah. But they also, to be fair to everyone, had online open qualifiers or in real life also. So sinalihan ng mga competitors yun. And then from there, we played amongst ourselves in the training pool to figure out the final two. And then I was one of the final two.
Wow. Grabe. Whew. And then when did you syempre esports athlete, parang may ano ka ba? May coach ka ba? Do you have a coach for that, or do you have a mga training regimen ba, na physical din, mga ganun?
Ay, hindi physical. The for the sports teams, we had, aside from the players, there was a coach and a manager. And sa mga team games, meron din silang mga reserve players.
Mhm.
So the whole team could be from 4 to 10 people just for one esports title for one country. So it was a really big deal. And we didn't have a physical training regimen, but we had
Mhm.
a practice regimen for the game. Rigorous, as in, araw-araw kami pumapasok sa Brand Esports headquarters where we would train 7 hours a day, just trying to figure out what is our deck lineup for the tournament and then make sure we're playing at our best in every matchup.
Wow, 7 hours a day. Grabe. So, but then, bakit, what do you call this? Bakit Hearthstone yung napili nilang isama sa SEA Games?
I'm not sure. Actually, I'm not part of the committee that decided what esports they wanted to use.
Okay.
But alam ko parang there's a lot of factors involved aside from the popularity of the game. They need to consider sino ba yung mga publishers na willing magpa-license for the SEA Games, and alin yung feasible to have all of the players go for it at once, and then alin yung mga fit with the Olympic values, because I don't think they're gonna have any FPS games soon because it's depicting realistic violence.
Okay.
So ayaw ng Olympic. So it's a lot of different criteria that fit in. But I think they were able to get rights from Blizzard. So hindi lang Hearthstone, may StarCraft din.
Oh,
So
galing
there's two
pala.
Blizzard games.
So how many games? So Hearthstone, Blizzard, and I think there were three yata.
There were games. Hearthstone and StarCraft are
Mm.
from Blizzard the company.
Oo.
And then there was Dota, AOV, Tekken,
Oh, may
and
Tekken.
Mobile Legends, of course.
Wow.
Yeah.
Stig. Did it ever occur to you that you're gonna be an athlete representing the Philippines on SEA Games at all? Parang ganun.
Didn't occur to me until nangyari na. Parang, di ko nga magkaka-esports sa SEA Games, but it was very cool. Inunahan pa namin yung Olympics, and they should probably follow suit soon.
Oo nga, no? How, ano yun? Parang, so how surreal was it? Parang, syempre, parang, usually, parang, most, ang stereotype with gamers are parang, mga geeks, parang hindi unathletic, mga ganyan, tapos biglang nandun ka kasama. Diba? You're representing your country in the SEA Games.
Yeah, good point. I mean, it was very surreal in the fact na every other day pag may training, may media rin na nagpapa-interview, or kailangan namin pumasok ng TV5 or ABS to film our media pieces, mga ganun. Ang dami kasi mga hype pieces na, in my opinion, sobrang cringy, but whatever. That's part of
Cringy.
the job.
what
I mean,
what
well,
what?
di ako I can't look at myself seriously na parang, "Oo, okay." But it's part of the job. So
Mm-hmm.
we did that. And then yeah, that part was very surreal because we were being elevated to a status that's really respectable, which in previous years, I don't think that would have happened for esports. Kasi sabi mo mga stereotype ng mga gamers is geeks,
Mm-hmm.
parang nagsasayang lang ng oras. But
Mm-hmm.
the idea behind it is that this is a discipline that you can also achieve at a higher and higher level the more time you put into it, which shares that characteristic with traditional sports.
Mm-hmm. So what was the cringiest thing that you did?
Uh, Ewan ko. May mga director kasi na parang yung iba gusto nilang maangas yung dating ko. So, a lot of arm like looking, staring seriously into the camera. Pero may mga iba rin naman na, ikaw lang yung girl. So, like, you can look pretty. So, yung mga iba naman, nagpaka-cute pose naman there. I'm like, okay, whatever. But I was really just doing that to get it over with. For me, I just wanted to compete at my best level.
Oh. So basically parang it's a photo shoot, 'di ba? And then they're gonna use probably yung mga parang pre-game, I don't know. I don't know what to call it. Mga banners parang bawa parang before a boxing match. Parang 'di ba? Or like the one in the thumbnail dun sa WSOE parang ganun.
Ay, sobrang
Oh.
cringy din nun. Oh, I think there's a ongoing debate now whether esports should be marketed the same way as traditional sports. And I don't know where I stand in that discussion yet because I mean, I'm very used to seeing kunyari si Pacquiao pag may malaking laban, may mga hype video, may mga poster
Oo.
when the TV channels are advertising the match, they'll have like the two of the two competitors do the folded arm pose tas may apoy pa sa likod and everything, right? Cool. It looks hype for traditional sports, but I don't know if that translates well for esports kasi. So, I think there's room to experiment. So I
Mhm.
will accommodate if people want us to do that. But right now, I don't know what the best direction is.
The some the promos, the video, yeah, ano ba yan? Sa UFC kasi parang embedded, parang ganun. Or basta yung parang hype videos for boxing matches. So parang ganun.
Yeah.
Did you do something like that? And if you're gonna do your own, what would it look like? What would you prefer to put in it?
No, I don't think that works well for her. I had to do something similar for WSOE 5,
Uh-huh.
which is parang yung shoot namin sa gym na talagang actual gym na may mga tao dun sa tabi na nagbo-boxing, na talagang may muscles. Tas nandun ako na parang poser lang. Like, binigyan ko and then they just wanted me to keep taking the hood off and like looking serious into the camera. Oh my god. I cringe so much thinking back on it. I
Talaga?
don't wanna do that.
Di- Is it on YouTube? Is it on YouTube?
Mo yung search results, I'm pretty sure makikita mo yun. But, so if you had to ask me what would it look like, it's like that. But if you ask me, did I enjoy doing it? My answer is hell no.
Okay. Well, you have a point kasi parang you're not fighting naman and especially you're playing Hearthstone. Maybe if at least parang you're gonna be in like a casino, 'di ba? Parang you're
Ay, hindi
parang
naman.
poker
Wag
player, 'di
naman
ba?
gambling.
Or at
Actually,
least you're
mas
in a table.
delikado pa yun, the messaging.
No, what I mean is parang at least you'd be in a table and parang mafia
Yeah.
yung dating mo, 'di ba? Or I don't know, maybe that's pero not somebody that you're gonna parang it's gonna look like you're gonna beat up somebody. 'Di ba? Parang medyo sablay
That
nga
might
yung
work
director
for
nun.
I don't know. Maybe it works for other genres, but Hearthstone in particular, among esports, it's one of the more chill ones pa nga. And then esports are chill compared to
Mm.
traditional sports. So I think the right way to approach Hearthstone is like chess, for example. You don't see chess players walking in a path of flames to meet each other. Kung may hype video, they would just list each other's stats and previous achievements and their next goals, things like that.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I think
Yeah, oo nga, no.
we like from Hearthstone.
Hmm. Or, oo nga, no. Hmm. Napaisip tuloy ako creatively how are you gonna present. But yeah, that's parang that's a good point. Kasi if you watch MMA, there's this organization called Pride. Iba yung ano niya, iba yung kasi in the UFC parang they just present parang oh, and the athlete's gonna walk out. Dun sa Pride, meron pa silang dun sa announcer pa lang eh. Basta this high pitched voice I think Japanese woman. Tapos basta hindi ko magaya. You have to hear it. Napaka ano nun, napaka parang iconic nung voice nung Ale na yun. And then merong mga gimmicks unlike almost parang WWE. Ganun. Huh.
Yun. Imagine.
Do you think esports is gonna and then let's continue on your SEA Games experience first. So, uh how did it go? How did it go in terms of um
Uh, Sadly, I lost in groups. That's
really
equivalent to dropping in the first round. Yeah.
did you get
So,
to play so you didn't get to place at all?
no.
Oh, okay.
Well, I don't know. There's 12 players in Hearthstone,
Mhm.
and then I was not in the top six. And placing in the context of SEA Games is basically just gold, silver, bronze. So if you're
Ah,
anything
okay.
below
I
third place,
see.
in
I
I
see.
think that's how I would understand. But I didn't even make it to the next day, so it was
Oh.
bad. In short,
What went wrong? It's just the
uh, I want to say I got unlucky. Meron din ako mga misplay, but I don't think it was particularly egregious.
Mhm.
I think overall I played pretty well, but sometimes with Hearthstone, pangit
Mhm.
yung meta once in a while,
Mhm.
or pangit yung bunot mo, or mas maganda yung bunot ng kalaban mo. And in Hearthstone, we try to mitigate that by playing with a higher sample size.
What's
Because
the
the
sample
idea
size?
is if you're, uh, um, okay, let's say in statistics, I'm trying to make this not nerdy.
You can go full nerdy as you want.
Just imagine, okay, um, when you flip a coin, di ba 50-50 kung heads or tails? Yeah.
Mhm.
Uh, So, if you flip two coins, what is the most likely combination? Right?
Flip 50. You can't tell pa rin eh. 50-50 nga eh. Maybe it's parang magkaiba, heads and tails or both heads or both tails. I don't know.
Right.
Mm.
Um, but there are four outcomes, right? So heads,
Mhm.
heads, tails,
Mhm.
tails, heads,
Mhm.
tails, tails. So
Mhm.
it's more likely that you will get two different results um instead of all heads or all tails. Right?
Okay.
Um, but in practice, in real life, it's not like you're whenever you flip two coins, it's always gonna be heads and tails,
Mm.
even though that's the most likely result.
Uh,
When you extend a sample size though, if you flip 10 coins, it's more likely that you're going to get something closer to the average.
mm.
So, what I'm trying to say is, kunyari, may deck na warrior versus a deck na, let's say, mage. If warrior is 60% favored against mage, they will win. If you have one game, the chance that you win is only 60%. That's not really that high, right?
Okay. Well,
But
at least it's
if
more
you
than
have a
50.
lot of,
Okay.
yeah, right. I mean, there's a 40% chance na in that one game, mage yung mananalo. And then you would think, oh, baka hindi pala magaling yung warrior. But if you extend a sample size, let's say you have 100 games played, um, lilitaw yung advantage ng warrior. You will see that the warrior wins more times than the mage does on average.
Ah, yes, yes,
And
yes,
it's the
yes.
same thing.
Yes.
It's the same thing with a skill advantage, for example. If a player is, let's say, making correct decisions 10% more than the other player, it doesn't necessarily mean that with one or two games, they will always beat the other player.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe if you extend it to 200 games, makikita mo na more often, the more skilled player will win.
I
And that's the
see.
whole idea with Hearthstone and with any card game, any game that involves luck,
Yeah.
but also involves decision making.
I
So
see.
the problem, in my opinion, with a tournament like SEA Games is you're only playing very, very few games to
Oh,
determine who actually has um making the right decisions more often than not. That's
I
not
see.
to say na hindi magagaling yung mga kalaban ko. Magagaling sila.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that my performance reflects how much knowledge I had of that particular meta because I was really, really confident in my play.
I see. I
That's the
see.
shortest way I can put it. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, that's well, totoo naman kasi somewhere in the game it involves statistics eh, 'di ba? Parang and probability because of parang chances nung kung anong cards yung mabubunot mo from the deck, 'di ba? And it's determined by AI. So very random. Randomness is a huge part of the game. And how many games ang ilang games sa isang match ang ginagawa dun,
Uh,
ginawa sa SEA Games?
our standard is best of 5 in Hearthstone Grandmasters, but SEA Games, I think we did best of 3 lang kasi. So, lumiit
Best
pa
of
yung sample
three.
size lalo.
Ano ba yan? Dapat at
Or
least
was it
mga best of 20 siguro.
best of 3? Ay, hindi naman sa best of 20 because paulit-ulit lang yung magiging decks that you're queuing against each other. What I would have liked is more chances to fight each player. What they did was just one pass of round robin lang kasi. So parang five
Mm.
series lang yung lalaroin mo to determine who makes it to the next. And in 5 series, I got 2 wins and 3 losses. So that's not in the top scores.
I
Uh,
see. But
but
well,
generally, if we're looking at bigger Hearthstone tournaments, it's they use a different format altogether, not round robin, but Swiss. Which okay, I won't get into the logistics of that, but in short, you play more to minimize variance, which is um variance is what accounts for you losing when you're more likely to win based on your lineup.
okay, okay. Basically parang malas ganun. Yun ba yun? You
Yeah,
just got unlucky.
variance is malas or swerte. Like anything that deviates from the average. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
And you can
Okay.
minimize the variance by increasing your sample size.
Mm. Maybe make it at least like in the NBA finals, best of 7, 'di ba? First to 4, first to win 4, then I think that's I don't know. Again.
Marami nagrereklamo na bakit best of 3 lang, blah,
Mhm.
blah, blah. But there was also time constraints to be considered and things like
Mhm.
that.
Ah, I see.
I believe at the time, and I think it's fair to refute me if, because like nobody can just take me at my word, right? But personally, I believe that if I had more chances, I would have
Mhm.
performed better. But
I see.
may namalas.
I'm sure. Well, yung so race to 2 lang basically yung nangyari dun sa matches for the elimination.
Yes.
Oh. That's tough nga. That's tough. Mataas yung chances nung variance na sinasabi mo. Hmm, okay.
Mm.
And how long does how do you call it, uh a match ng yung 'di ba best of yung isang set ng isang match, if that's the right term.
Maybe an hour.
An
An
hour.
I would
Oh.
say a game of Hearthstone is what 10-20 minutes. It really varies on what type of deck you
Oh,
bring,
okay.
but including the time it takes to give your band and to communicate with the admin to set up everything, I would say one set would take an hour on average.
Mm. Is it exciting to watch for you, for you're an avid um tawag dun, you nag sa shoutcast ka pa on the game,
Mhm.
and is it exciting to watch a Hearthstone match?
Yeah, for me, I think well, I
Oh,
appreciate everything going on kasi, and it's
really?
really my job to make it even exciting. But I recognize that for somebody that doesn't play Hearthstone, hindi siya masaya panoorin. Kasi parang wala akong magigets compared to Tekken, for example, where
Yeah.
bakbakan siya mainly. Yes, a
Mm.
lot of strategy going on at a deeper level, but even a surface level viewer can appreciate when there's a big combo that's dropped, or pag sobrang laki ng bawas niya sa health total. Wow, that's amazing. With Hearthstone, I think the most impressive plays are very difficult to spot, and the most fascinating parts of the game are happening inside a player's brain
Yeah.
instead of what you can actually see on the screen.
Yeah.
So it's a very different discipline to commentate on, and
Mm-hmm.
one that's difficult to appreciate unless you're at least familiar with the baseline.
Sabagay, no? Sometimes my friends would play Magic, and then parang whoa, parang they're gonna, alam mo yun, there are times that they're just gonna erupt in parang alam mo
Yeah,
yun, para silang nakakita ng
and then
knockout, 'di ba? Ako naman parang
right?
ano, ang- 'di ba?
Huh?
Di ba?
Okay, so may nabunot ka. Tapos,
Oh, 'di ba?
ano yun?
What's going
Yeah,
on?
like
Pero
that.
Pero syempre, it's like for me naman, kasi I'm an MMA fan. I'm thinking it may be like parang jiu-jitsu. Kasi you're just fighting on the ground, and sometimes hindi siya ganun ka-interesting if you don't know what's going on. Kasi it's like chess with your body. Parang ganun.
Maybe.
And
Ako
then
naman yung
maybe
hindi
that's the
familiar sa metaphor. But I can
uh
imagine.
yeah, kasi sometimes parang they're just grappling, and they're on the ground, and they're on top of each other, 'di ba? Pero if you know jiu-jitsu, and you know the highest levels, and you see it, somebody pulls off a maneuver, and then yun, parang sila naman yung ano, parang basta it's very thrilling to watch that. So it's I'd imagine based I'm sure ganun din yun sa with Hearthstone. So what are your ano,
Yeah.
what are the most how would you call it? Parang pinaka highlights ng career mo as a shoutcaster during the tournaments. Parang ano yung pinaka mga highlights na if you're gonna pick one match to recommend, which one would it be?
Uh, oh, I don't remember particular matches so much. Actually, you reminded me I need to make a reel. Sobrang kailangan yan for a caster, but I've been lazy to put one together for a long time. But we're live every weekend on
Mhm.
YouTube. So if you just search Hearthstone Grandmasters Asia Pacific, you'll see me casting one of the matches. So if I'm just gonna recall from last weekend, there was a really cool match between two Japanese players, which I really
Mhm.
enjoyed casting. I think that was pretty hype also. So
What's the channel again? Hearthstone Game Masters?
just search Hearthstone Grandmasters
Okay,
Asia
Grandmasters.
Pacific.
Okay. Grandmasters Asia Pacific.
Yes.
So what happened in the match?
Uh, I'm not sure kung magigets mo. I'm sorry, but
Okay,
like,
okay.
I
Okay,
can't
okay.
explain.
I get it. That's all you need to
Keep on
say.
really high level strategies, and then it led up to a sudden lethal out of nowhere. The other guy was one off lethal, so it was at the razor's edge. But ayun.
Talaga? Oh, now I'm
But
intrigued.
I
Now
don't
I'm
know
intrigued.
anything. So
Okay. Pero good point. Baka hindi ko rin alam. Which one is that? Okay. Hearthstone Esports? Is this a
uh,
channel?
Glory versus Aludem. Yeah.
Which one?
You can click on any of those. I'm
I know.
casting all of that. Pag Asia, but the
As
particular match I'm talking about is not there.
they're just playing at home then.
Yeah,
Wow.
we're all doing this
Ang
safely.
saya. Ang saya naman ito. And
Ito yung bago pa dumating yung backup ko. So, pangit pa yung mic. And yung headset na to nasa US pa. So,
oh,
this
okay.
ay last week lang kasi dumating yung gamit ko eh.
Mm. Cool. Hmm. So so you're now working for Blizzard directly, right?
Uh, I'm not an employee of Blizzard, but yes, this is work with Blizzard.
Ang galing. Cool. No, I don't know what's going on, but I'm gonna listen. Do you explain to the audience what's going on, or some technical uh yung technicalities about the game? Do you mention that as
uh,
well?
at this level, we don't explain the things that we assume a viewer would know. If you play Hearthstone, kunyari, we're not gonna name out every single card as it's played. You see the floating
Ah.
when there is battle. Instead of saying, "Oh, he played Battle Rage," I'm gonna say this Battle Rage is gonna draw him three cards, something like that. So parang
Yo.
may assumed knowledge na.
I see. I
But there
see.
are also, I think, some casts that are directed more towards a new audience. You might
Mm-hmm.
find those not on the esports channel, but
Mm-hmm.
like say expedition matches or sorry, expedition exhibition matches or show matches. Yeah.
But you would I would assume parang when somebody draws a particular card, and then parang you would mention some speculations on what he might do with it, and
Yes,
like
but
an
that's exactly a big part of our job.
mm, okay, galing. Well, it's great that you got the gig, 'di ba? Parang dati patambay-tambay ka lang dun sa kayo naglalaro dati what
The
you said earlier.
Saviorville.
'Di ba? And
Yeah.
then now you're working with Blizzard. Wow.
Yeah. For real, it is super lucky. Big, big privilege. And I don't take this for granted. Sobrang dream job na nga. Kaya pang gawin during quarantine. And masaya pa siya.
Oo nga eh.
I know I hired her. And,
And also and also I'm sure there were lots of did you have to audition at all? I'm sure madaming may gustong
uh,
mag 'di ba?
so certain parts of or certain competitions might have open auditions for casters, but these days all of the high level competitions for Hearthstone, they're just pulling from a pool of already known casters. Mahirap na mag-break into the scene, kumbaga.
Mm.
Nung stinart or nung nang-start ako, medyo okay pa yung timing kasi wala pa masyadong casters sa Southeast Asia and pabago-bago pa yung mga hina-hire nila for events in each country. But now everything is streamlined to just be grandmasters. So, ang gustong kunin ng Blizzard is mga casters na kilala na ng community or may track record na.
Mm. Okay. Oliver Teng commented, inilaglag ka ni Oliver Teng. Oh. He says, Gia has a funny highlight against a Chinese player during an invitational. I think it's a short clip, but interesting to discuss. So what happened there?
About, but I also don't think I can explain this.
Oh, I.
Okay. Ito na lang. So, um, it was like the last turn of a game na yung
Mhm.
kalaban ko, Fish yung tag niya,
Mhm.
yung in-game name niya. So, Fish had a way to win on that turn 100%, but
Okay.
she didn't identify it. And then, ang nangyari kasi though is I played a card that shuffles damaging cards into both of our decks. So I had a 1 in 8 chance on the following turn to lose just by drawing that card. But if 7 out of 8 times, ako naman yung mananalo because she made a mistake. So kahit nagkamali siya and I was supposed to win on the next turn, ang nangyari is nabunot ko yung card na yun, the 1 out of 8. So natalo pa din ako. So
Oh.
Hearthstone, we call I mean, ang joke na lang ng community is that she just BM'd me bad manners, which is like alam mo nang mananalo ka pero meron ka pang ginawang fancy para lang if-flex mo lang sa kalaban mo. Parang ganun. And of
Ganun.
course, she didn't know. It was not intentional BM. But then it was really funny kasi alam mo, every time I say something is really funny, I think it detracts from how funny it actually is. Kasi parang pinupush ko pa talaga na funny siya. But basta,
Well, I'm sure. Well, Oliver remembers it. I'm sure it's there's something in it. But you're when you're telling me these stories, parang do you calculate every move? Parang it's 1 out of 8, parang 100% sure to, parang ganun. O, lahat ba ng mga Hearthstone players think that way, or does that make you
um,
an exceptional player?
at the top level, I think yung mga kaya mo lang bigyan ng hard chances or hard fractions of how likely this is kunyari, you have 20 cards left in your deck and you have two draws that let you win the game this turn. So yes, you're gonna calculate, okay, I have 1 in 10 to win this turn.
Oh.
But with other plays, it's really not clear if this gives you a higher percent chance to win or option B gives you the higher percent chance to win. And those types of things na hindi clearly delineated yung odds, um, I don't think anybody can do the math even if they tried because there's too many different outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
With something like card draw, it's very simple because finite lang yung mga situations and kaya mong isipin in your head all of the possible outcomes of drawing a card. But you can't give yourself odds of all of the ramifications of one single decision
Mm-hmm.
on the board
Mm-hmm.
because there's many branching outcomes. If you compare it to comics, for example,
Mm-hmm.
may mga may multiverse, 'di ba?
Mm-hmm.
So kung let's say ginawa mo turn 1, meron kang option A, B, C. Kung ginawa mo yung option A, on turn 2, meron namang branching path na A1, A2, A3. Pero kung ginawa mo yung option B, meron ding B1, B2, B3. And every decision has a branch. And it just keeps growing and growing and growing. So with those
Oh.
situations, you cannot give yourself odds. But the more experienced players will know by intuition which option gives them the best chance. Kasi ang dami na nilang experience that they've witnessed similar situations and they've tried going for all options at a different point, a different game. And then all of that knowledge combined will help guide you make an option, make a choice when you next encounter a similar situation. Kung may
Oh.
sense yun.
Yeah,
Ugh.
yeah, yeah, of course. Uh, so how you said earlier, parang you train for 7 hours a day. Do you is that your even
For
when you're
SEA, I don't do that all the time. SEA
uh,
games lang.
SEA games lang, so SEA games lang yun. Oh, pero I'm sure you've played probably tens of thousands of hours already, since 2014.
I'm
Mga ganun,
reasonably
no?
sure. Yeah. Uh,
And
there's
oh,
a counter that says number of ranked games won. I think I'm somewhere around 16,000, 15,000, I would say. And if you count that there's also the losses, let's say I had 14,000 losses and 15,000 wins, that's
mm-hmm.
being generous. or roughly 30,000 games played. And if each game is 10 minutes, 300,000 games played. I sorry,
Wow.
300,000 minutes spent in game. And that's not counting all the time I spent casting,
Mm-hmm.
probably even more than I spent playing recently.
Wow.
And then watching streams, etc. So it's just a lot of Hearthstone my life.
How did your parents react when all of a sudden your gaming starts paying out, 'di ba parang how were they pala when you weren't pro yet and then compared to now?
Uh, they were very supportive from the beginning. I'm so lucky actually.
Wow.
Kasi nung nag-start ako mag-cast, pinagsasabay ko pa with my studies. And it was really not that often that I would go and cast, maybe once every 3 months, once every 6 months, tas naging once every 3 months, and then umabot ng every other month, and then
Mm.
umabot ng, oh no, kailangan ko magpaalam, can I take this exam earlier para pwede ako mag-abroad to cast this event. At that
Wow.
point, slightly
That
na-worry na yung mommy ko. And to be fair, she had all the reason to be worried because that was the year I was gonna graduate already, dapat.
mm-hmm.
Um, but they really trusted me that if they thought that I could handle my workload, then I'm free to go and do what I like. So, shout out sa parents ko. Napaka-lenient. Salamat.
Well, they probably saw that there's a career waiting for you, and it's alam mo yun, it's a very prestigious now that especially now, diba, that you're with the top game developer in the world. Ano bang top ngayon? I think Blizzard ba or what?
I
Definitely
don't think
Blizzard
it's
is
Blizzard.
one of Blizzard. Definitely Blizzard is
One of the top,
up
for
there,
sure.
'di ba? Woo,
Mhm.
astig. Grabe. Uh, kasi like again, I'm gonna say before parang yeah, when we were kids, kala mo tanda ko na no. Uh, parang it was it was not kumbaga, I never even imagined that it would come to a point na parang being yung pro gamer, it's parang pro gamer. Parang ganun yun eh. And it's gonna be a lucrative gig one day. But of course, it's gonna take a lot of hard work, 'di ba? So what are the misconceptions
Yeah.
about pro gamers that you hear or being discussed in the community? Ano yung mga ganun?
Actually, you bring up a very good point na let's say, nung bata ka,
Mm.
let's say, how many years, like, even 10, 20 years ago, there's not many people would consider esports a legitimate career. Now, we enter 2020, it's pretty mainstream but still not universally recognized, but on the rise. Talagang
Yeah.
ang daming nakikiride na sa industry because they can't deny it. It's a huge market, it's high
Mm.
viewership, and so on and so forth. And now we have a whole new generation of jobs that also didn't exist 10 years ago. You
Mm-hmm.
have content creators, you have influencers, that type of thing,
Yeah.
na ngayon, sila naman yung dina-doubt na is that an actual career. But I expect that in 10 years, that's gonna be universally, well, nearly universally expected na rin. And then at that point, there will be new jobs also that are just, unheard of at the time. But that's the society we live in, right? With new technology comes new opportunities. And I think esports is on an upward trajectory. But if you're asking about misconceptions about pro gamers, probably the first one is that it's easy.
Mm-hmm.
Sobrang natitrigger ako every time somebody says that, ah,
Talaga.
you just play games for a living. Sarap naman ng buhay mo. Like, to an extent, yeah, we're very lucky to have a dream job, but
Yeah.
we're not, um, it didn't come easily, right? Everybody who has, um, a place in a competitive community had to beat out many, many other people to get
Yeah.
to that place in the community.
Yeah.
So it's not easy. And I would argue because it's such a sought after job, mas madami ka pang kalaban, mas madami ka pang kailangan i-rise above in order to take that place. And then another misconception is that actually madami. And I'm trying to
Mm.
pick out the ones that I can talk about without being a hypocrite. Kasi meron ding mga bad stereotype na admittedly kasama din ako dun. Like, hindi masyadong athletic. That's
Okay.
definitely me.
Okay.
But,
Okay. Well, ganun man talaga. From what I see, sa mga when I watch stuff, parang even in the let's say the billiard players, 'di ba? Hindi naman sila ganun ka-athletic, 'di ba? Sina Efren Bata. I think I saw it from an Efren Bata interview. Parang they still require them to at least do the treadmill, parang ganun. Sa inyo ba may ganun din no, when you're competing?
SEA games, I think so in the other esports meron din ganun, but it wasn't rigorously implemented for the Hearthstone players. Personally, I don't really have a workout regimen, but I know of many top esports players that make sure to stay fit. They work
Mhm.
out, they eat healthy, they
Mhm.
make sure to get enough sleep, and it's all valid because I mean, it's proven that having a good physical, what do you call it? Physical. I'm
Um,
losing my words.
yeah. Well,
Just a good
Yeah.
physicality helps a good mentality, for
mm,
example.
being healthy.
Kasi kung
Mm.
malakas yung katawan mo, that
Mm.
means more oxygen is circulating through your body. Your brain gets more oxygen. It helps your
Mhm.
focus. So it's all tied together. And so working out and being healthy can only be helpful to
Yeah.
your esports gameplay. Although I wouldn't say that being healthy to the highest standard is completely necessary to compete in esports. Gets ba?
Mm. Yeah, yeah. Well, it makes sense. Although meron kasing ano parang what you call this? Again, I'll go back to I'm gonna defer back to MMA. Um kasi MMA is still relatively a new sport. Like esports, parang parehas lang halos yun eh. A few years lang yung difference. And then before, well, basically the game evolved rapidly. Probably the fastest development sa isang sport ang nangyari din sa MMA. Kasi if you're gonna compare the kumbaga parang a regular athlete, MMA athlete right now sa UFC, for sure parang i-annihilate niya yung mga yung mga previous champions. Not taking away from them. Anything away from them but rather. So but kasi parang nag-develop yung yung science and training on how in terms of nutrition, in terms of how to train their bodies and the techniques ganyan and how to implement other things. Naging scientific yung approach. So are there huge leaps on um, how to be an esports athlete parang compared now from before.
Mm, I'd say that's different from esport to esport because it's so different. Like comparing Hearthstone to Dota, for example, is as far away as comparing chess to soccer.
Really?
It's so different the skills that you need for each. Yeah,
Hmm.
ganun kalayo.
Talaga?
I don't think I could play Dota for shit because you also need to have very fast reflexes, which I don't have. But for Hearthstone, I have the right skill set, which is critical thinking, logical
Mm-hmm.
thinking, problem solving, mga ganun, which you also need to some extent in Dota, but it's a different way of using all of those skills. So if you're talking about advances
Mm-hmm.
in what the criteria are for being a potential great esports player,
Mm-hmm.
for something like StarCraft, for example, it's heavily dependent on how quick your APM is, actions per minute. Aside from that, it's also just learning the strategies from game to game. Hearthstone, I don't think there's a huge, or I don't think there's a rigid criteria that you must be this, and this to be a good Hearthstone player. But ang napapansin ko within the competitive community is that everybody who does well has a knack for being good at math, for example,
Mm-hmm.
and they're all very logical thinkers. And they are willing to deal with statistics because that's a big part of the game.
Mm, cool. So what are the things that you geek about? Do you geek about parang mga data, mga ganyan, or ano yun? Other than games. Other than games.
Well, I am just a nerd through and through. My course in UP was molecular biology, so data talaga
Wow.
yung bread and
Oh,
butter.
molecular
Um,
biology.
yeah.
So you're a doctor? Wow.
No, no, no.
No?
Um, pwede siyang pre-med, but I didn't go to med school.
Ah, really? Hindi pa ano yun? Okay. Okay. What, anong pinag-aaralan sa molecular biology?
Undergrad.
Oh,
Uh,
sorry? Can you
the
repeat that? Okay.
sorry, undergrad course lang yun, hindi siya med itself. So, I
Okay,
mean,
okay.
if I take biology in college, I can become a doctor if I go to med
Mm-hmm.
school, but definitely doesn't make me a doctor immediately.
Okay.
Um, molecular biology is a more specific branch of bio that deals with how our biomolecules interact. For example, it's basically chemistry within the context of a living organism. So
Mm.
molecules that are more commonly found in organic species, or very important molecules like DNA,
Wow.
proteins, that type.
Oh my God.
So ang inaaral namin is paano ba na, like genetics, that type of thing. um yeah,
Talaga? How about
it's another.
viruses? Viruses, is that included in your field of study?
uh Basic knowledge. Yeah, we had to learn at least yung mga differences between an RNA virus, DNA virus, mga ganun.
Ah,
But I'm definitely not an expert.
okay. Well, I had a doctor who explained on the show who explained some of that in the previous episodes. And yun, grabe. So, molecular biology, meron pala dito nun, no? How many were you in your class?
Mga 60 kami sa batch.
Talaga? Hmm.
Mhm.
So most of the students who graduated parang they nagdo-doctor sila basically. Hmm.
About half na tumuloy sila ng med school. The other half went to research most
Mhm.
likely. So parang tinuloy nila hanggang masters in
Mhm.
molecular biology, which helps you become, well, you can work in the academe, or you can just become a full-on scientist.
Mhm.
Yung mga, 'di ba sobrang uso ngayon yung mga testing kit ng COVID, blah blah
Mhm.
blah, 'di ba?
Mhm.
Um, the people who work in the labs to get those test results, interpret the test results, and run the tests are not necessarily doctors. More often than not, those are lab technicians or research assistants. So,
Yeah.
yun yung mga scientists na hindi doctor,
Mhm.
na
Okay.
ganyang trabaho yung pwedeng pasukan ng mga batchmate ko.
Yeah. Or and some become esports champions. Mga ganun. Cool.
Ako yung variance.
Astig. What other games do you play other than Hearthstone?
Hearthstone is the only competitive game I play, but for fun, I've always loved RPGs from the beginning. That's my bread and butter, especially Nintendo. I play uh I'm always on my Switch recently, addicted to Animal Crossing. But in terms of like favorite games of all time, I really love the Legend of Zelda's franchise. I
Mm.
love Fire Emblem. I love games from BioWare, Dragon Age, Mass Effect, Knights of the Old Republic. Those are off the top of my head some of my favorites.
Cool. Do you play on console or PC?
Mostly console, aside from Hearthstone, actually. Kasi I grew up with a Nintendo console every generation from the N64 to the GameCube to the Wii until now my Switch and all of the
Wow.
handheld ones. So, console talaga ako.
Okay. Stig. Teka. Ay, hi Jason Jalu de Ramos. Uy, dumating siya. Okay. Uh,
So,
ano pang gusto kong tanong? Do you have other questions, guys? Uh, let's see.
etong
Hmm.
si Jason Jalu de Ramos, I mean, alam na niya lahat. Every
Talaga?
podcast nanonood.
Oh, wow. Cool. Uh, I saw some, yun na lang. Do you, kasi I think I saw you, when I first saw you in the news, parang, okay, mayroon palang esports athlete. And then, I looked you up on Facebook and saw your page. Parang you were starting streaming pa eh, parang ganun. And I think parang you have a podcast then.
It's
Um,
not my own, but I would guest on my friend's web show called Last Game PH. We just talk about video games. Um, although it's not a regular thing. Usually pag trip lang namin.
mm
And then for my streaming, I mean, everybody tells me I should do it regularly, but honestly, sobrang tamad ko. I don't like streaming that much. I
Oo nga.
might do it every so often, but I don't know. I prefer playing just by myself.
Sabagay, no? Well, you have now that you have your setup because Blizzard sent you stuff, then equipment pang stream. Maybe you can do that more often. The green screen that you're using, is that Elgato? Did they provide you that as well?
I don't know the brand. I don't think it's Elgato, but uh they did provide the green screen. It was just one very long cylinder na pagbukas mo ng clasps, ihatak mo lang pataas and then it's stable already.
Yeah, I think that's
Parang
Elgato.
opposite ng kulay yung what do you call it? Yung screen ng projector, but
Mm.
pataas naman siya.
Uh,
Cool. As in, nakita ko siya, sobrang nakakatuwa. Until now, natutuwa pa rin ako kung hindi pa halata. And, yes, about the streaming, it's a very good point that having a good setup means that it, I mean, I should feel guilty for not streaming, but I really can't be bothered right now. As in, I'm already working on broadcast about 18 hours, like all throughout the weekend, and then pag weekdays naman we're working on additional content creation. So parang ayoko talaga mag-stream. Ang free time ko na lang is by myself and that's what I enjoy.
what do you think about the no? What do you think about the kasi streaming is huge on Facebook right now, especially yung mga game streamers. Kasi nagkaroon yung Facebook gaming is huge eh. And 'di ba yung mga mga girls, meron pa ako nakita na macho na nag-stream eh. What do you think about those? Mga pa.
I mean, good for them, right? If you can make a career out of doing something you love, then more power to you. I mean, it's not for everybody, but certainly there are people that enjoy it. There are people, if you're broadcasting and you have a good community that are enjoying your content, edi ang
Mhm.
galing mo. Nice. Keep going.
Pero you yourself
Ano
parang
ko may
Oy, nawala yung
for me,
audio.
nawala ba?
Oh, yeah. Can you just
Hello,
repeat
hello.
that? Yeah. Yeah. Yan, okay na.
Yeah, for me, I don't think I have the attitude to be a continuous streamer because I find that when I enjoy games the most, it's just by myself or only with one or two people playing with me instead of
Mhm.
having to play for an audience. I will do it every so often pag napagtripan ko, but most
Mhm.
of the time I would just play a game to relax, which means playing by myself. Pero may mga tao
Mhm.
na talagang trip nila yon, and they have the endurance and the right social endurance, if we're gonna call it that, to be able to stream to many people for a long time. And good for them.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
not easy.
sometimes it looks easy eh. Kasi especially some of the girls parang they're just there, 'di ba? Nagpapansign lang sila mga
I,
ganun. And I don't know.
but I wanna just say that if you're saying that, that's okay. Yes, there will be some people whose main content is about the game. Sure. There will be other people whose main content is about the person.
Oh
Sure.
yeah.
What valid kung meron namang gustong manood sa'yo
Yeah, that's
dahil
true.
maganda ka or
Mm.
dahil entertaining ka, anong masama dun? Like,
Well,
as long as you're saying that you're comfortable with what your product is,
yeah.
then it's up to you. It's your hustle.
Yeah, and well, I mean, it's up to the viewer if you want to watch, diba? So you have
Mm. Yeah.
other content to watch if that's not for you. Oh, may tanong si ano, si Oliver Ting na wait. Let me just scroll back to his question. It's a Hearthstone question, I
Tinatanong
think.
ata niya how to find the
How do
newest information.
uh,
Yeah.
how do you get information on the newest meta? First experience ko is battling Pogo Hopper user. Sakit ng mata ko, hirap ako
Pogo na
patumbahin. I
Pogo.
held my own but
There's
I
a card.
okay.
There's a card in Hearthstone called Pogo Hopper. It's not Pogo as in yung mga gambling. Wag yan. Um,
Okay.
Pogo Hop, yes, wild siya. Either Battlegrounds or Wild kasi wala nang Pogo sa standard ngayon na malakas. But
Okay.
if you just want to know the best decks in the meta, just check HS Replay or follow the pro players on Twitter. Follow Ahirun on Twitter, Ahirun. Lagi niyang nire-retweet yung mga pinakamalalakas na deck lists and yung mga latest na rank 1 legend. Mga ganon.
What's the name again? What's the name again?
Ahirun. Hirun on Twitter. It's a Japanese guy that
Okay.
always tweets the lists. That's
Okay.
what I check if I need to find a new deck.
Okay. Anong
Or
what
hsc.net.
no no wala. No what would your advice be for no for Hearthstone players of I don't know. Struggling na lang. Struggling, yun na lang qualifier. Struggling Hearthstone players. Parang hindi na gets and they're really interested with the game.
If they wanna improve. Nood lang kayo
Yeah.
ng mga stream. That yan, ang daming Hearthstone streamers, mostly on Twitch, na they like everywhere from the top players to new players. As long as you find somebody that you can easily understand, panoorin mo lang sila, tas may matututunan ka rin. Matututunan ka rin because they tend to just I don't know. When I started playing and I wasn't good at the game yet, it made such a huge difference when I just watched better players make their decisions because suddenly you'll realize, I've always been doing this or that wrong pala. There.
Oh, talaga? May mga ganong experience? Oo nga, no? Well, kasi it's,
Everyone's
I'm sorry, can you repeat? Nawala ulit.
everyone starts from the bottom and then
Okay.
they get somewhere.
Yeah, that's true. Well, you gotta play more games. How many? Kasi, well, it's also one thing. Becoming a pro player is do most for most pro esports athletes, did they, from what you know, did they really aim to become one, or it just happened? It's just so happened that they got really good and eventually get sucked in the industry, or was it a goal for many of these people?
It's a good question. I don't actually know. I can only speak for my friends in Hearthstone na parang hindi naman nag-start as a goal to be a pro player because they were there before there even was a pro scene. Like, oh, there's a new card game. Maybe they were a pro at a different card game and itatry lang nila. And then after the competitive scene starts to emerge, they would look for tournaments and join those. And then before you know it, it's a career. For some people, it happens like that. I don't
Mm-hmm.
really know anybody that had zero experience in card games and said, I'm gonna become a pro. And then they did it. Wala akong kilala na ganun.
Talaga. Sa bagay, no? Kasi, well, I think right now you can still consider yourselves, you're still in the one of the formative years of esports, and any esports, especially for card games na vi- ano bang tawag doon? Video games na card games. 'Di ba? Is Hearthstone the first ano parang may pro na competition sa card games?
So, Magic was the first. Magic the
Oh.
Gathering has an online
Ah.
version. Uh and even I don't know if they're even the first, but they're the first really big one. And then
Mhm.
Hearthstone is the only other really big one, I would say. Yung mga kalaban or mga bagong card games that popped up recently are either super new or didn't take off and
Mhm.
have a smaller player
Mhm.
base. So
This
it's
Hearts
really Hearthstone
the
and Magic right now that are on top
Mhm.
of the digital card game market.
So walang actual Hearthstone na card game, yung talagang cards.
Wala.
Ah, okay. Cool. Well, I don't think Magic the Gathering is parang I don't well, I'm not in the scene, pero parang if you want to play Magic, parang you would want to have the actual cards, 'di ba? Parang I don't think kasi may mga madaming purists diyan eh, yung hardcore fans, parang hindi at least that's what I would guess. Kasi mga fans ng especially Magic, parang they've been around for decades, 'di ba? So malakas yung ano nila na if it's gonna go into a new medium, may mga resistance yan sigurado. And like Hearthstone, it
Uh,
started with digital, 'di ba?
I don't know. I think that's true of certain people, but from what I know of the Magic community, marami rin na happy na may online version kasi ang mahal ng paper Magic. Like it's very difficult
Oh,
to all of those cards. So
true.
I think online is more accessible to certain existing players and also opened up avenues for newer players. And those two communities combined make Magic a very, very big powerhouse in the card game
Mm.
community.
Di ba merong card game din dun sa Witcher? Anong tawag dun? Uh,
Gwen.
when, di ba? Is it uh, a game by itself within Witcher or
Yeah,
di ba?
ayun.
Kulit nun eh.
A standalone. Gwen is a standalone card game, which I have not tried, but I'm told is kind of fun. But right now, wala akong motivation to try other card games, which tinanong ni Jason yun.
Oo nga
Sorry.
eh.
I mean, I haven't even played Terra since it launched officially. I played it in beta, but then
Mm.
ever since Hearthstone Grandmaster started, I've been so busy with casting. So, yun
Mm.
lang yung tinututukan ko right now.
Awesome. Alright. Huh. Ano pa bang mga tanong? Getting pro is commitment from Jason. Anyway, so anong oras na tayo? Hey, really thank you for
Yun.
doing this, GM. It's a let's see.
Sure.
I hope to get you on the show dito sa studio one day when the I mean maybe talk about other things then. Kasi it's well it's amazing how you can talk to people kasi we parang we just met online, 'di ba? Just last week yata, and then we can do podcast over the internet, pero there's still kasi dun sa yung original na vision ko for the podcast is yung talagang ano eh magkaharap mga ganun. And it's really different pa rin eh, 'di ba? 'Di ba? It's really different. There's always I would call it a podcast high after every episode. And I feel my guest, if there's one thing that I'm really proud about the podcast is that ramdam ko yung high nung mga guest ko after every show. Para saya-saya, para gano'n, parehas kami gano'n. And most of the time we would stay for another hour just to chat. Alam mo yun? And some of the better conversations happen nga after. Eh. And yun. And teka, may nagtanong, what's next? Ano yung mga next events for you daw? From thanks Jason for asking. Ano yung
GM pa rin, Jason. We have 2 more weeks of Grandmaster Season 1, and then I'm casting Master's Tour Online Yon Shopping the week after. So 3 more weeks of casting, and then I'll take a break for a month and a half, and then Season 2 naman. So it's a lot of casting. That's all.
well, ang galing din nung ano no nung yung nung digital industry kasi you can do it online, 'di ba? And
Yeah.
if the COVID if the lockdowns didn't happen, would your set be like kumbaga parang it's a grand set then every day? Is that gonna be the case or this is gonna be in an arena or what would be
No. Grandmasters would still be done from home by the players. They would still, because they're all in 3 different regions and it's going on for 8 weeks per season. So hindi siya feasible to bring all of the players to one place for that long. But the casters, we all were supposed to be in the US. So
ah,
in a real production studio and in a paid for apartment for that amount of time. So yun dapat yung plano. But of course, everybody had to adjust
yeah.
during the pandemic. And thankfully, we were able to adjust pretty well.
Sino yung kasama mo when you go abroad?
Mag-isa lang
Di,
ako.
oh, talaga?
I
Mag-isa
mean,
ka lang? Stig. Sa bagay, no?
I mean, kasama ko yung mga coworkers ko. But if you mean, meron ba akong from here in the Philippines na
Oo.
sasama sa akin? Wala. Ako lang naman yung
Manager,
may
mga ganun.
trabaho sa abroad. Eh. So,
Sa bagay, no?
wala.
Pero do you have a manager? Parang, ano ba yun? A handler? Parang ganun? Who,
Not really. I have somebody that I work with on my own content, which is also kind of on hold right now because of the pandemic. Si Kuya Maui. If you go to my Facebook page, I have certain videos that Kuya Maui edits. And minsan, he works a little bit like a manager, but I don't have a formal person that handles me. I just do my own.
all right. That's great. Okay, so we're almost at 2 hours, Gia. Thank you so much for doing this. Yun, teka. Oh man, you, Jason says yung mga magic na collectors na tropa ko love the online game. Ah, okay. So, I'm really not in the loop pala talaga. Yun. So, I suppose we can end the podcast right now. So, is there anything else that you wanna say and or tell everyone?
Sagutin ko na lang yung last question na yun.
Ah, sige, sige.
I think it's about Runeterra. Comment on Runeterra.
Okay.
Um, so I played, alam mo naman yung League of Legends, right? That's
Yes,
by
yes.
Riot Games. And they
Mm.
came up with their own card game
Mhm.
recently. So, in
Oh.
theory, kalap. So, I tried it in the beta phase from January to Feb.
Mhm.
And then after I hit Master's rank, medyo naging busy na ako with Hearthstone, so I stopped playing. And recently lang siya nag full release. I think end of April. It
Mhm.
was released in a final version already, not just beta. And I haven't played it since then. So hindi ko mako-comment yung current meta ng Runeterra. But during beta, I really, really enjoyed it. I think the economic system is super generous compared to Hearthstone. Ang dali-dali makakollect ng cards sa Runeterra, which is great, accessible for new players. And um, the game itself is less RNG dependent. So if you prefer um less randomness compared to Hearthstone, it's good to go there. But I also think that the meta got solved really quickly kasi konti pa lang yung cards. And in terms of pure enjoyment because of the wackiness of the game or all of the powerful things you can do, I think bibigay ko pa rin yan sa Hearthstone out of pure fun, Hearthstone. But
Talaga.
I think Runeterra's also pretty fun and possibly rewards strategic thinking even more.
Mm-hmm.
So both of the games have something good to offer, I would say.
Mm. How much yung kasi correct me if I'm wrong pero I think my impression would be yung to gather more cards aside from the default that they give you when you purchase the game. Parang you need to purchase you have to make extra purchases to get other cards. Is that correct? Sa Hearthstone?
In Hearthstone, you can buy packs. You can pre-order expansions and buy packs,
Mm-hmm.
but you can also be free to play in theory just by grinding the in-game
Ah,
currency gold.
okay. I see.
You can fulfill quests to get gold, but it's slow. It takes a lot of time if you do that. I was
Mm.
able to be free to play for the first 3 years that I played Hearthstone kasi nandun ako from the beginning. So parang sinasabayan ko pa as new cards are released, meron pa akong gold because I played every day. But if you enter just now, ang dami-dami mong cards na kailangan to make
Ah.
up for the
Mm-mm.
time that you missed. So at that point you probably would have to spend to get all of the competitive decks. But it's not impossible to be free to play. Yun lang yun.
Is
With
it
Runeterra, almost everybody is free to play, I think. Kasi one, bago pa lang siya, and two, ang dami nilang binibigay na cards for free.
Ooh. Is Hearthstone free to download
Free to
or
download.
and then free
Free
to
to
play?
download, free to play.
Okay, parang they
But
just
the meme is
the what? I'm sorry.
the
Ulit.
meme, meme it's pay to win, which is like it's pay to get the best decks, but you're still not gonna win if you suck. So it's pay
Ah.
to give yourself that's what I'll say.
Okay, okay. All right. So there. Thanks, Gia. Thanks to everybody who watched. Oliver Ting, Jason, Dave Scott, and some Russian dude. Yun. Thanks again, Gia. Hope to see you one day, and all the best to you and your career. And yun.
So much, Gerald, and all the best for 2 episodes from now, 100th episode, and your anniversary of the podcast.
Oh yeah,
Congratulations.
yeah. I started the podcast June 3 of 2018, and that's gonna be next week, 'di ba? I have meron akong mga malalupit na guest. Hindi ko muna sasabihin. I'll just announce it on the show on the Facebook page. One of the guests is basta one of my beloved mentors ever. And we're just finalizing the dates and yun, watch out for the Powerful Comics Man podcast and also follow Gia on Facebook and Twitter.
Mhm.
What's your Twitter account? That pala yun na lang nilagay ko dito.
At Jia Dee underscore.
At GAD_gaming. Ayun lang. At GAD
No,
underscore.
Dee underscore. Yun lang.
Okay. Okay. Almost not 1 year, Jason. 2 years. That's 2 years. All right. See you on the next podcast, and hope to meet you in person, Gia. That's it.
Yes, looking forward to it. Good night.
Yeah, I'm gonna catch up and dapat nag-review muna ako tungkol sa Hearthstone bago natin ginawa 'to. But it was great talking to you. So there. Nakailang babay na tayo. Okay, so good night everybody. Powerful Comics Man Podcast. Bye-bye.